Well, hey there, Mama. It's Emily McDermott from Moms Overcoming Overwhelm. For those of you in the South and in the East, I know you've probably been dealing with snow and ice, and I pray that you are staying warm and that you are safe. And perhaps you are at home with kids who have what seems like endless snow days, like me. And so I wanted to give you this bonus episode with me and my friend Michelle Byrd. We are talking about a grace-filled approach to New Year's planning and among other things. And I just hope that you really enjoy this. And I will be back with a regularly scheduled episode on Thursday. Thanks so much.
Hey, friends. We are back with another episode of Coffee and Tea with Emily. This is myself, Michelle Byrd, and Emily McDermott. We are going to hang out with you today talking all about new energy, new year, what you kind of do after Christmas. And I feel like that's a huge up, and then you kind of come back down.
Yeah. Yep. And I definitely feeling that we're recording this almost 2 weeks into January, and I'm just like, okay, things are finally settling a little bit with the routine, but then it's kind of seeing like, well, did I really make things more complicated than they needed to be with my plans and everything, and kind of take a step back and see like what's actually sustainable in our day to day. So I'm not necessarily like a gung ho resolution type person. However, there were some things I was like, I want to be more consistent with these things in the new year. But then you kind of think you can do that with everything all at once, which is not feasible. Figuring out like, okay, what can I be consistent with now? And then maybe add on to that later on. But yeah. So it's been an interesting start to 2026, that's for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I have a coach who has said, you can do everything, but just not all at once and not without help. So
Yeah.
she's always like, you can do all these things. You just need some help because you may not be able to do it all on your own and not all at the same time. So I have
Yeah.
to keep that in mind. Like, it's okay. It'll work out. We can get these things done, but it may not all be on the timeline I'm thinking.
Yeah, and it is normal, and I try not to every year, but it is normal to get kind of swept up in the New Year energy and everything, and then thinking that you can tackle a lot more than you actually can. So that is something for me, I think, with work, but also for some like personal things and some of the health things. It's just really like, okay, you have a good foundation with a lot of this stuff. Like, let's keep up with that foundation. And then maybe just kind of implement like one new thing for the week. Maybe if it doesn't happen this week, that's okay. Try for next week. Like, really being very kind of, I don't know, grace filled in this approach, because otherwise then you get down on yourself and it's like not even February. And that's probably why most people quit some of this stuff by February, because they're like, I couldn't do it perfectly, so I'm just not going to do any of it at all.
Yeah, it's like that perfection mindset of like, I'm going to go to the gym every day. And then the one day you don't, you're like, now I can't do it. Now I'm not going to go to the gym because I didn't go today. And now my whole thing is unraveled and I can't do it again. I've heard somebody say, it's okay to miss one day, but don't miss two in a row. So give yourself that one like grace period of it's okay. I didn't meal plan for today and we, went out and got McDonald's for dinner, but maybe don't do that 2 days in a row.
Yeah. And I think it was James Clear. I mean, I don't kind of live by everything in Atomic Habits, but one of the things that he said was, try to keep the schedule even if you change the scope. So like, I think about that a lot when I do exercise in the morning, because my intention is that I'm going to do like a 20 to 30-minute workout. And some days it's 20 minutes and some days it's 15 and some days it's 10. And I'm not getting like down on myself. It's that I kept the schedule to show up at, 6:45 in the morning or whenever I end up going down to the basement and starting. But it may not look the same every day. And that's okay, as long as I'm maintaining the habit, even if like the scope of time, needs to change. So that's been really helpful for me, because then it's like you don't feel like the all or nothing, like you said, like the all or nothing perfectionism. And I feel that way also with this new health protocol I've been doing because there's recommendations for things to add in to your diet. And it's like, I know this might sound weird, but one of the things is a raw beet, okay? Like eating raw beets every day. So some days I eat the raw beet and other days I don't, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you messed up because you forgot to eat your beet. Considering I never even ate beets at all, like except for the occasional salad or whatever, and they're usually cooked, right? And I'm like, that's an improvement. That I'm even doing it at all is an improvement. It doesn't have to be like do it every day or else you're a failure. So that's been very helpful because especially a lot of people have some sort of health improvement goal for
Yeah.
the next, for the new year. It doesn't always look the same, but normally we want to at least improve some aspect of it. And that's usually where we fall off the first, I find,
Yes.
is like the
Yeah.
health stuff.
Definitely. I go to the gym, and so people always joke that like there's all the New Year's resolution people that make it really busy from January to like about March, but by March everybody's dropped off. So you do by January if you want certain classes or certain equipment or your routine, you definitely just sign up early or get to the gym early knowing that there's just going to be an influx of people for January and then everybody will kind of peel off.
Yeah, and you smile at them. You don't like look at them weird. What are you doing here? You're not going to
Right.
last.
And some people stay, but yeah, a majority of people, because you're right. It takes like that mindset of it's not perfection, right? That you can still keep doing stuff, or that mindset that, okay, I may not have done it today, but it's okay. And I can still keep moving forward, or it can still make progress. So it's tricky. Also, there's just so much new energy, I think, at the beginning of the year. Everybody wants to get like a new planner and they want to make sure it's perfect. They want to make sure, oh, if I just have this new time management tool that this year will be fine and I will be all organized. If I just declutter a bunch of stuff, I'll be fine. You know?
Yeah. And on one side, for the decluttering a bunch of stuff, I have been getting a lot of new clients and referrals. So I'm not mad about that, but it definitely is coming from the like, okay. And honestly, sometimes it's people, they just kind of hit this point, kind of like this breaking point. And when you have the holidays, like at the end of December, you're home a lot more and you're noticing the stuff in your house that's like bugging you because you're there for like a prolonged period of time, or maybe you're with family members. And so you're kind of like noticing habits of things that like are not going so well or routines and that kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, well, something needs to change. And I mean, I did a podcast episode recently about this concept of a roadblock review. So if you're noticing that things are not going well with like your routines and similar things, that you look at 3 F's. So like the points of friction, like where are things like getting stopped up or like kind of, like how is it not working? Maybe for the kids, they're not putting their coats on the hangers. So we're going to maybe try hooks because it's less friction. And the second F is frustration. Like, where am I getting frustrated in the process or getting frustrated with like my family members? And the third is falling behind. Like, where are we always falling behind? Like, we're rushing to get out the door to go to an appointment. We're rushing out the door to get the bus stop. Like, where are those kind of roadblocks happening? And then, of course, going through the process of looking at them and then saying, like, where's the first domino? Like, where does this get tracked back to? But with that curiosity rather than like this is going so horribly and nothing's going to change. And because I feel like a lot of times we do notice, especially at the beginning of the year, like very plainly what's not working in our routines and our daily habits and stuff. And then really being able to review them and kind of have that curiosity, like, what's not working? What can I get rid of? Like, what can I stop doing? A lot of people think they just have to add a bunch of stuff and not like subtract. So, like, what can I get rid of? What can I stop doing? So, I've been doing that a lot too, just with like our daily routines and stuff within my business and that kind of thing. So, I think that's where that New Year's energy is actually good because it like gives you that boost to kind of review what might not have been working very well in the previous year.
Yeah, it definitely is like a time marker in the calendar to say, okay, because there's so much energy around this new year and so forth. And you look back and see, okay, what were the things that happened last year that either I want to continue on into this new year that worked really well, or what were some of the things that I need to just let go of or that didn't work or that now don't really fit in this season that we're going in. And so it's taking that stock and inventory and what you're doing, your rhythms, your routines, but then also, as you said, like your stuff. Because you're inside a lot, hanging out with your family. And yeah, I think it's just a good time to kind of go through stuff. I find that also spring, you have that spring cleaning kind of energy. I don't know if it's like a second wave after you've kind of gone through that January of this is what I'm going to do for this year. And then spring kind of comes and you get that like cleaning energy.
I never really get cleaning energy. I can't stand it. And in fact, one of the downsides of kind of having the business taking off a bit more is that there's clients that they work weekdays and so the weekends are their only available time. And so I've really had to be intentional, like, okay, I don't want to work like Saturday and Sunday and to have those boundaries. However, there are a lot of people that that's kind of the time that they have to do it. So that being said, normally we do cleaning on the weekends and then I'm not here and I'm like, oh, maybe my kids will want to be incentivized to be doing some of this cleaning because they can earn points to go towards like technology time. No, they had no interest. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to earn some points? No. Great. Okay. So the result of that is that the laundry got done and some of those types of things, but some of the cleaning, it's just like now it's recording on a Monday and I'm like, oh, like it wasn't done. And I hate that feeling. And it's also just something that I could put on the most exciting music. I could set a timer. I could do all these things that are supposed to make it more exciting and palatable. I just don't like cleaning. And so it's just something I can have the tidiest house in the world, but don't do the white glove test and check for dust because you're probably going to find some dust in my house. And that's been the challenge for me. Just like, okay, I either have to not have it planned on the weekends and just do a little bit through the week or figure out a different incentive plan to get my kids to help again. But yes, everyone's like, ooh, spring cleaning. And I'm like, I'm not here for it. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between like house cleaning, like cleaning floors, vacuuming, dusting, cleaning toilets, that kind of thing, and cleaning versus decluttering and organizing. I think those are two different kind of animals and they often get shifted into one. I know we gave up like the deep cleaning when we had 3 kids because I couldn't manage to do it over the week. And my husband was like, I want the weekends to relax. I don't want to have to clean for hours over the weekend. And so we tried a couple different like systems and routines of it, but nothing really worked very well. And we were kind of done. So we were happy and we outsourced it. And now we have somebody who comes and cleans twice a month and she is amazing. And so we try to encourage the kids to like, you get to clean this when she's not coming to clean to make sure that they know how to clean and that they're doing their part and that they're not ungrateful that we have help. But yeah, it is kind of a tricky thing of like, how do you manage that with kids and encourage them to help and all the things? Because it's hard after a long week to be like, and now I'm going to clean that.
Yeah, and for me, it's through the week, I'm trying to prioritize more my energy going towards like the business and that kind of thing. And so then if it ends up being like 3 o'clock and the kids are getting off the bus at 3:45 and I'm like, ooh, I could vacuum. I'm not like, ooh, excited. I'm like, oh, I guess I could vacuum the main floor. And then I'm like, I don't want to. Like my energy is usually pretty low at that point. So one of the things is that my husband currently is searching for a job and I have been asking for more help from him because he has more capacity. It's a weird thing when you've taken the lead on something for so long. It feels a little bit odd sometimes to ask for help because you're like, this is my responsibility. Like, this is my domain. These are the things I've always done. But he's always very willing and helpful. It's just sometimes I'm very timid about like asking, like, hey, could you go to Costco today so I don't have to go tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Because I know that he has an important job searching for a job. That's very important. However, there is some more contribution that he can do since he's home. And, it's rather exhausting applying to jobs for like 8 hours a day. No one
Right.
wants to
You
do
need a
that.
break. You
Oh
need
my
a
god.
break.
Yeah, so that's been something that it's been hard for me to do, but then I feel like I'm more confident about that, and honestly, when it comes to cleaning, if my business is successful enough, I have no problem with, like, the outsourcing and being like, "Okay, now we're at a point where outsource the cleaning," and that kinda thing. We're not quite there yet, but I see that hopefully so that's, like, part of my goal. Like, I'd like to make money so I can contribute to my family and so that I don't have to clean. It's
Yeah.
all about
There's
all
always
about
some
the
goals.
things all about the things that incentivize us and motivate us, right?
Yeah. All those fun things. So looking kind of ahead, do you have anything that you're looking forward to in this next quarter or next few months that you're like excited about or kind of like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. Well, one of the kind of things I didn't think I'd be excited about, but I'm excited about to kind of test out is that my youngest is turning 8. And normally we do the whole like you go somewhere and it's like super expensive for these play places. And I just kind of didn't want to do that anymore. And we have a relatively small townhouse, meaning there's not a lot of room for kids to be like running around. So if the boys have someone over, it's usually just like one kid at a time. But I'm going to have like 5 or 6 of these kids over next Sunday. And I asked Sean, like, well, what do you want to eat? He's like, let's just do tacos. I'm like, okay. So we're just having kids over. They're going to eat tacos and play Mario Kart and foosball and maybe have a Nerf gun fight in the basement. And it's like 2 hours. And it's just really low key and more importantly, inexpensive because I feel like sometimes we think that we have to kind of do what everyone else is doing around us. And around here, it's very common. Like you go to the trampoline park, you go to the indoor play place, you have the pizza, everything's decorated, and then, it's just a lot of kids. And I was surprised that Sean was okay with like a smaller gathering. So that's more of like an experiment. I'm not super looking forward to it per se. And the other thing is going for a long weekend in February to Florida, which has become kind of a tradition, and seeing my mom who goes down there. She's a snowbird, so she goes down there for about 3 months in the winter. And then I have a friend from Germany that I've known since I was 15, and she comes too. And this is, I think, the third year in a row that we're doing that for that President's Day weekend. And so I'm looking forward to just kind of having some relaxing time, just me and the girls. And so, yeah, those are a couple things that I'm looking forward to. How about you? Do you have anything fun planned?
Well, it's funny you talk about birthdays. So our middle one turned 14 on the 1st. And so the problem is he turns 14 on the 1st, and then our oldest, her birthday is April 1st, which usually falls on spring break or people are gone. And his birthday usually falls on kind of winter break, Christmas and New Year's break. And so their friends are never around on their actual birthdays. So we never get around to kind of planning a birthday or doing something. They never know what they want to do. So I'm always like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to have some people over? Do you want to do this or that? And we've done some birthdays that are a little bit bigger, like gone to Golfland or something, but they're so expensive and they don't really care that much, I think. I think they just want to hang out with their friends and eat snacks. And like we've had Nerf gun battles in around our house in the backyard, and that one was a big hit. We had pizza in the garage one time, and my middle guy, Bo, he played with his friends and they played tag around our house at nighttime, and they had a fabulous time. It was like it cost nothing, practically, because we went and picked up pizza and that was about it. So it's just funny. I was just thinking the other day, like, oh, I need to plan something for their birthday, but they never know what they want to do. And so, yeah, that's one thing we should probably work on.
Well, I was just thinking I scanned the photos from my parents, like from their childhoods on, and then from my and my brother childhoods on. And
Good
so I
job.
have, oh, yeah, it was a project for sure. But all of my birthdays that I can recall, especially when I was like really young, but even in through elementary school, was at our house. Like my mom just made a cake it was not this like extravagant thing, you know? And my mom actually has told me before, she was one of 4 kids. She's like, I didn't even have a birthday party until I was like 10, you know? It's just like, and now it's just sort of the expectations and what everyone else is doing has just gone way haywire. And so then it's like, oh my gosh, if I'm not having it at this awesome place, and normally they have a minimum of like 10 to 15 kids, so you're paying for all the kids, even if they, you know, maybe your kid doesn't have 10 close friends or whatever.
Or they can't show up.
Or they can't show up. Yeah. And the other thing that I've been doing consistently, I think for the last maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years, is having the like on the invitation in lieu of gifts, doing like money towards something. So sometimes it's been Lego sets. In this case, on plays Roblox. So he wants those like Robux, which are it's pretty much like Roblox money that you can use in the games or whatever. And while I'm not a huge fan of the whole like video game thing, it is a clutter-free gift that's not going to be like taking up a bunch of space. I've been getting Chick-fil-A and Cold Stone Creamery cards, and these are for like 7, 8-year-olds and above. And the parents are happy because they're like, oh, thanks for not cluttering my house with a bunch of stuff, especially for these January birthdays where maybe they just had Christmas and they just, you know, had all this stuff come in. So that's been something that also has really simplified birthdays for the kids, is that they know that, you know, and if somebody just brings a regular gift, like that's fine. But for the most part, we're not having our house like inundated with a bunch of new stuff. And then they're just able to have this relaxing, like, I'm not making the cake, but my neighbor, he makes these amazing cakes. So like I'm paying him to make the cake. And we're just keeping it really simple. And like you said, usually the kids are fine. I'm like, do you want a theme? And Sean's like, birthday. I'm like, okay, great. Birthday is a great theme. You know, I said, you know, what are like the 5 kids that you want to have over? And he picked his 5. He wasn't trying to pick like 20 kids, you know? So I'm feeling good about that because I'm not a party planner. I'm not an event person. I wish that we hosted more and we don't. And it's something I do want to do more in 2026 is kind of like host neighbors and have that. It's a value of mine as a individual and also as a Christian, but I don't really like live it out, you know, and having people over. So I feel like this is a small step in that direction. Like, okay, I'm going to have a group of kids over. It's going to be fine. It's just for 2 hours. Even if the house is a wreck, I can get it back to normal relatively quickly. And most importantly, my son is going to have a great time without and realizing that it can be this low key thing. Like we don't have to go to the trampoline park to have fun. Does that make sense? Just kind of like we can have fun just sort of hanging out with our friends. So I am hopeful that this can be a trend for the kids' birthday parties in the future.
I like it. Yeah, birthday parties are always tricky. We have like a standing, I love the lazy genius, and she talks about decide ones. And so we decided that we're just going to have birthday cards that we've gotten from the dollar store on hand. And then we get Amazon gift cards. And so then the kids can pick out whoever we give it to, they can pick out whatever they want. If they want a snack on Amazon or a book or some other random thing, Amazon has so many different choices that we often feel like our kids love it when they get an Amazon gift card because they're like, I wanted to buy this thing and now I have money. Or we actually say, or you can give it to us and we'll give you the money. You can do whatever you want with the money and we will use the Amazon gift card with the next thing we need to buy off of Amazon. So they always have like that option if they get those gift cards for gifts, but they love the idea of like, cool, I can use this, or, you know, I get this money for this. And they don't think it's a negative gift at all. They love it.
Yeah, you make a really good point. That one of the things I learned from my mom was sort of like getting cards at the dollar store and then kind of bulk getting them for certain ages. So if I know that my son's going to be invited to all these 10th birthday parties coming up, for example, they're all just getting the same, hey, you're 10, you know, birthday card. that's like $1 because if you're going to some of these places like Target or even the grocery store, it's like 6, 7, bucks a card. And so my husband definitely for our anniversary, like he likes to be very selective and picking. I'm like, I love you. And this $1 card says I love you. And so like we're good. So yeah, if you want to save like 50 to 100
Fine.
bucks a year, then get your cards at the dollar store. Pro tip.
Yeah, cards and balloons. They have the best price for balloons and the best price for cards. Bunch of other stuff we get there, but we usually look there first before Target. So, like, if we need school supplies or if we need, things to make crafts or the kids needed stuff to make cookies that they sold at their school over Christmas and they need little bags for them or something. Dollar store is great. They have great stuff. But yeah, definitely I like getting cards there. They don't always have the best selection, but I've noticed that whenever I'm there, I pick up a few cards for whatever occasion. Some are just blank if I can find them. And then they're a lot cheaper and easier. What happens with our kids is they're like, oh yeah, mom, I need to go to a birthday party on Saturday. It's so and so's birthday. And so I would find myself like, oh my gosh, now we have to make a special trip to go get a card and go get a gift and go do all the things. So having it on hand and deciding we're just going to give them a gift card and having that ready took a lot of stress out of it when the last minute they would say, hey, so and so's having a birthday. I need to go to it or I got invited.
Yeah, that's like a universal thing with kids that they're like, oh, mom, by the way, the next day. But yeah, I love that idea with the gift cards. I think that I might start doing that because, again, that's a part where sometimes I end up making a special trip. Like I have the card, but I don't have necessarily the gift card. So I think that I'm going to do that as well because, yeah, I love that whole decide once and then you just kind of have that done for, 3, 6 months. You're kind of like good knowing that there's kind of that average number of parties that your kids are probably going to be going to in
And
time
just I
frame.
found to keep it on hand, a
Yeah.
couple gift cards, whether, you don't have to keep a bunch, but a couple so that you're not running to the store. Or if you wanted to give somebody else a nice gift to say thank you for something, that it's also useful for that. I mean, it's just very versatile. You don't have to make a special trip.
Yeah, you're just making me think kind of in line with the lazy genius concepts, when it comes to like teacher gifts or like those types of things that when you want to give those. For us, I just decided we'll just do end of year gifts. So that's still a ways off. But just knowing like, okay, so maybe I have that happening in the spring, like make trip to Target to get the gift cards because I found that a lot of times I think I was trying to get like thank you Target gift cards in like May. There was nothing. Everything was like baby shower.
Mm.
I can't give the teacher the baby shower one. And so for me, I want to do some of that. And when it comes to planning, yes, I want to plan things in the business. And I want to plan like events or trips or whatever. But some of that stuff, like, okay, I know that I want teacher gifts at the end of the year. So it'd be nice to kind of have that in advance. And that's one thing we're looking through the previous year's calendar and kind of seeing some of those things that have happened that are pretty repetitive that you expect are going to happen again this year, then just kind of, I don't know, knowing about that in advance. So that's one of those things. I haven't done an official like sit down, plan out the next quarter for the personal side of things, but that alleviates a lot of stress for me. I hate the last minute, like, oh my gosh, like this is coming up this week. And
Surprise.
yeah, and it's like I already have the week pretty planned and I don't have a ton of extra pockets of time to be going to Target and trying to find specific types of gift cards. So that's one thing I want to get better doing in 2026 is like anticipating things that there's a track record of having to have these things in advance and then finding a spot on my calendar to do that so that I alleviate the stress later on.
Right.
Especially now, just, again, with Pat's job search and a potential move and this kind of stuff, like I want to make sure that I have the capacity when he's like, okay, I got a job and it's in this state. Okay. So then all of my energy is going to be focused on moving and I'm not going to have front of mind like, oh, I have to go get that gift card for that person. So
Right.
I feel like this is a good opportunity right now for me to think about some of those things and get my ducks in a row.
Yes, but often there's things, as we said, that you can't plan for that just are surprise. So to think through, like, okay, like for example, our daughter said, "Oh, I need to bring snacks on Friday." So we said, "Okay, thanks for letting us know." It was a week ahead of time. So we're like, "Great. Next time we go to the grocery store, we'll get some snacks, or we'll plan to go to the grocery store closer to your date and we'll pick up some snacks." Well, my husband was going to the store and he texted her pictures of like, "Oh, how about this? How about this? How about this?" And she didn't want any of those things. She had a specific idea of what she wanted, what snacks she wanted in mind. And and then it came to the time where I was like, "Tomorrow you have to bring snacks. What are you bringing?" And she was like, "Oh, I thought we could just stop at Safeway on the way home and pick up snacks." And I was like, "I don't have time to stop at Safeway randomly. You had all this time and all these opportunities to pick a snack." So then it was like, "Okay, what do we have at home? What do we have on hand that you might want to have?" So I have found that having a couple things on hand is often good.
Yeah, and kind of having that backup plan in place. Like, I feel like meal planning is a good example of this because I have been really solid about meal planning lately, which used to be my nemesis. Now I've
Good
kind
job.
of, thank you. I think it's because I have the whiteboard in the kitchen where I have written out like what we're having for the week, and the kids actually look at it. They're like, "What are we having?" I'm like, "Look at the board." And I like being able to just direct them to the board to look at. And sometimes I do ask at dinner, I'm like, "Okay, I'm about to do the meal planning for next week. Is there anything that you would really like?" And I kind of take that into account. However, sometimes I forget to defrost something, or I think it's going to defrost in a day, like chicken breasts or something, and it ends up being 2 days. So then having kind of that decide once, if something happens, this doesn't work out, not necessarily doing takeout, but doing something like breakfast for dinner. That's like super simple because the kids are even like fine with eating oatmeal for dinner, or I could just like make basic pancakes and scrambled eggs or something and that they're good with that. But it's good to kind of have something in mind like, okay, if plan A doesn't work, plan B is decided and it's breakfast for dinner or like whatever that would be kind of that brainless, like whatever they're
Right.
going to like. I think Dachi calls it brainless crowd pleasers. It's kind of like the
Yes.
stuff you don't have to think about that you know your family's going to eat and you have that stuff on hand, just all of it all the time. So that has been helpful too, because then it's not like, it's not defrosted. What do I do? Like, should we just
Right.
order pizza? But we're getting pizza on Friday. So I don't want pizza on Thursday too. So that's been really helpful to have that backup plan in place. And then you can just pull from it if you need to. So yeah.
Super helpful. I was just thinking about it today, doing an episode all about like meal planning kind of tips as we're kind of going into this new year. There's so many different little things like that where like we keep pizza on hand for that reason in our chest freezer. So if things aren't defrosted or it just is not going to go right, we can do that quickly. We usually can defrost salmon pretty fast and we have salmon on hand. So we usually will make that. But like, sometimes that's not going to work. And so you just have to pick another route.
Yeah, and I really love, I mean, I know everyone has kind of their tools they use, but AnyList has been they've really upped their game on their app and it's now, I don't know, it's more user friendly. That's what I do for my like shopping and then also the meal planning and everything. And so just importing recipes, because a lot of times as part of that New Year's energy, we're like, I want to make all these new
Yeah.
recipes and like try all this new stuff, you know? And I've really had to kind of be like, no, like if you're going to do a new recipe, it's either one a week or one every 2 weeks. And I've found some real kind of simple, basic ones, but any list you can just you're on the website. And then, of course, if you're on like a recipe cooking website, there's all the ads and like all the other stuff popping up. And it's really annoying. Even if you jump to recipe, there's still all that stuff. So it just allows you to import the entire recipe to AnyList with like one tap. And then it's just like all there. And it has like the cook mode where it's like you tap on the step you're on and it's like darker. And then, it's like highlighting the step that you're actually on, which is helpful for me. But I've been like, okay, I'm just going to try one new recipe this week, import it into AnyList. This is where everything is. I'm not getting it from like the random recipes from my family, from my mom, and then like the random cookbook and this. Like I'm planning and doing it from one place. And then if I have like one meal a week where it's like the wild card where, okay, I can find a new recipe or I can look in the cookbook or something, but just being able to reduce that decision fatigue has been really helpful since I'm usually doing meal planning on like a Sunday afternoon or evening. And it's just like, I don't have the energy to be like, let me look at 15 new cookbooks and dream up all of these new recipes I want to do. And that might appeal to some people in certain seasons, but I am not there. I'm like, let's just pick the stuff I know my kids are going to eat and maybe try like one new thing and I'm good.
Yeah, we decided, well, I don't know if we decided, if we ever talked about it, but typically when my husband, who does all the cooking amazingly, when he wants to try a new meal, I always suggest, or we kind of plan it out to do it over the weekend. So then you have more energy to do it. If it doesn't go well, you can pivot easily. Usually our weekends, we try not to plan a lot of stuff. So he has a lot of time or it's just more relaxed. And during the week, I feel like you're running from activity or, as you meal plan, you're like, oh, okay, this night we need to have a quick meal. And this night we have a little bit more time. And this night they're going to have a lot of homework. So we have to do this. During the week, just gets super busy. And then, as you said, decision fatigue, stressing out about trying to make a new recipe that everybody's going to like. And do you have everything on hand? And then you have to go to the grocery store. All that seems like way too much stress.
Yeah, I did have a situation over the weekend where I had the recipe and it was like on the board, but I forgot to put like slow cooker in front of it. So I forgot it was a slow cooker meal. So it was like 3, 4 o'clock. I had come back from a client's house and I'm like, oh, this says slow cooker. So then I just pretty much on ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, I'm making this turkey chili. Originally, it was going to be slow cooker. Here are the ingredients. How would I adjust this for stovetop? And then it was just able to do that really easily. So that has been a place where I've had to pivot. It doesn't work for everything, obviously, but in that case, it was easy enough to just do that in the stovetop. And then it was like 40 minutes instead of having to do the slow cooker. But that's something I need to look at closely. Like, is it slow cooker? Like, do I need to have this in at 9:10 a.m.? Or is it something that I'm just doing that quick, like one pot meal when the kids get home and before we're going to basketball or whatever? Yeah, that has happened a few times, but luckily AI has helped me with that pivot and I am very appreciative.
That's awesome. I was thinking of you because slow cooking remind me we went to Mount Lassen for a couple days in between Christmas and New Year's, and we went up there. And there's very few grocery stores. The Safeway is about half an hour away, and so we got food on the way up. My husband thought about this. I thought this was a great idea, and he brought our crock pot because we drove, so we could put things in the car. So we brought the crock pot, and he planned to make. Okay, we're going to make chili and we're going to have that for dinner for most of the nights, 2 or 3 of the nights. And so that actually worked out really well because when we got done playing in the snow, we would come back home and then everybody would take showers and get all cleaned up. But we'd have dinner like pretty much ready to go, unless, there's a couple side things that you're making. But it was really great to have that cooking all day long while we were out playing in the snow.
Yeah, I've never thought about traveling with a slow cooker, but I love that.
Right? I was like, oh,
That's
that's
genius. It
genius.
totally is genius. I love that.
So don't be shy about taking your slow cooker if you
Yeah.
need to take it to a place, especially one that doesn't have a lot of stores or grocery stores or places to go grab dinner. So, yeah. All right. As we're kind of thinking through things, wrapping up, are there things that we talked about kind of what's coming up, maybe things that you're excited about. Is there anything that you needed to pivot with or kind of practical things that you're thinking through, this week coming up as moms are busy and thinking through all the stuff? I feel like our kids just jumping into this is our second week of school. They're like, their energy level is tanking. They're like tired. Nobody wants to work. Everybody's still on kind of vacation mode.
Yeah. For me, it has been really anticipating that things are going to take longer than I think they will and buffering my schedule more than normal, like lots of padding. And that means like, just appointments and that kind of thing. Just knowing, okay, well, if my goal is that I would be leaving said appointment at 11:30, okay, let's make it 12, and then kind of having that extra buffer time. And then if I find myself that it's like, oh, I have an extra 15 or 20 minutes, yay, that I didn't realize that I had, knowing some of those like short term things, I've been much better about not doing scrolling, like mindless scrolling, which I'm really happy about. I've actually been reading some fiction books kind of simultaneously while I also read like one fiction book and one nonfiction book at a time. Because sometimes I'm in that learn mode, and other times I'm just like, oh, I want something that I don't have to be learning. And it's just on the Kindle app, on my phone. It's like a library book. And so if I have that extra like 10 or 15 minutes, I might read like a chapter from the fiction book. And then I kind of feel like special, like it's kind of like that little me time you didn't know that you're going to get. So I think the buffering and then really understanding and kind of doing that roadblock review that I was talking about, kind of like, okay, what's working, what's not working with certain things going on. So one perfect example actually happened yesterday when my kids we're going to church. I pack them a snack, and then sometimes I pack one for my youngest on the way home. My youngest gets hangry, very, very hangry. The problem is I did not pick the most nutritious snacks. I picked like fruit snacks for the way there and like a Rice Krispie treat for the way home. And the sugar crash was like not good. And he came in and he was like surly and rude, and we got into it. And so to my husband, where everyone's yelling, and it just was exhausting. It took a bunch of time. And then it was okay, trace it back. Like, where did this come from? And I really think if he had had something with maybe a little more protein, like something a little more sustaining for him, he would have been in a completely different mood and headspace, and we wouldn't have had this entire like 30-minute blow up conversation that really messed up the mood and rhythm for us for pretty much most of the day yesterday. So for me, it's looking at those things that like didn't work. And again, not being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we were yelling at each other for 30 minutes. I'm a horrible mom. I'm a horrible person. Just recognizing like, okay, how about we try that when I pack the snack for him, it's something like maybe we try a fun kid-friendly protein bar. I don't know. Something that we'll see, is that going to change the mood? Like, is that going to help? Or that my husband has lunch ready for him when he gets home or something, that kind of pivoting and just recognizing like what's not working, trying to trace it back and then coming up with that new plan and then experimenting and testing that. That has really been my go-to, and it's taken out all of the judgment and the negative emotion that's not really helping me, where I used to like berate myself. I would spend so much time berating myself about what didn't work and what I should have done differently, instead of just being like, that didn't work. Interesting. Let's try something different. And then you just take all of that emotional baggage like out of it. So that's what I'm really trying to do when I find opportunities, put it that way, opportunities to pivot in my day to day.
Oh, that sounds so similar. We just had one of those last night. Yes. So my middle one has been eating a lot of his Halloween candy. He had a ton of Halloween candy left, probably 3 times the amount of the other 2 children combined. And so he had maybe 4 freezer bags full. So we used up a lot of it on the gingerbread houses, which are still to be eaten. But he has been consuming for snack all the candy. And so he got off video games yesterday and he was all upset and he wanted candy. So thinking through, my husband was like, oh, it's my fault. I was working on a project in the yard and I didn't manage their video game time. Usually they get breaks. They have to take breaks. They, take a few minutes to settle and then they can do some more screen time. But because I was working on stuff and he was working on stuff, nobody encouraged them to take a break. And of course, without encouragement or alarm or some kind of thing, they just keep staying on their computer like most any of us, right? So we were like, I think they had too much tech and they probably didn't have enough like things that they were eating. They probably haven't had enough sleep. They're probably my oldest one, a little stressed about school because she has more homework and is an A-type personality. So, adding in these things like, oh, okay, like not just to blow up, but to kind of take a few steps back. Like, wait, why are they getting really upset? What has caused this? Do they need, something with protein? Do they need some water? All those little things you ask, right? to take a step back.
Yeah, and I think looking at it from like unmet needs or for expectations. Like so if I'm looking at why did I get so upset about something? Then is it okay, did I have an unmet need at the time or did I have an expectation that was like unrealistic or not aligned with really what what actually made sense? And also with the kids, like especially with the unmet needs. Like that's usually the first place I go. And even though my kids are a little bit older now, I mean, they're not babies, they're not toddlers, but it's okay. How do they sleep late last night?
Right.
How have they been eating? Have they been on their tech like too much today? And it's showing in how they're behaving. And you can usually trace it back to some of these like really fundamental, foundational things. And then it's just recognizing again, even with the best intentions, or if you have guardrails in place on like your normal weekdays, but then it's a weekend. And so things are a little bit different than just being able to talk to your spouse and being like, okay, so this is kind of how we want to try to approach things on the weekend. So we can kind of tag team and make sure that things aren't going off the rails. Cause there's something about like family fighting on the weekend. I mean, it's horrible all the time. But on the weekend, like like everyone's home. And so like, everyone's screaming and there's like, I
But
hate
everybody's in a
you.
bad
Like everyone's in
mood.
a bad mood, everyone's slamming doors and we're all here. And if we're going anywhere, we're probably going as a family. And right now we're not like liking each other right now. So
Unhappy.
yeah. Yeah, I do think that recognizing that it is an adjustment from this end of year break,
It's true.
Christmas break, and then getting back into the rhythm. Also, my kids have been having some tests like within the first couple weeks of school being back, and they don't always share or volunteer that information. It's like the whole, how was school? Oh, it was fine.
Right.
What did you do? We did stuff. And they won't say like, oh, I had a major test today. Like they don't share that information. Now, obviously, if it was something they had to study for, I would know about it. But this is more like the standardized tests, which
Right.
sometimes they just kind of come.
Yeah.
And so I think that I didn't recognize that they were both under a lot of routine transition stress. And so that played into it too. And knowing that, it's like, okay, when I'm looking at the first couple weeks of January next time around, then maybe we need to adjust some expectations about like what we're doing and how I don't know, the energy levels of everyone on the weekend and that kind of thing. So, yeah, but it's all data, it's all information that we're just learning from. And I feel like that's the most important thing is to just not continually judge yourself and to get down on yourself about it because that was my past. And I just felt like I spent so much of my motherhood judging myself and feeling bad about my actions. And now I'm really trying, I feel like I am training my brain to be like, oh, that didn't go as I wanted. That's kind of not my best parenting in the world. And that's okay. And I'm learning from it. And next time I'm going to do this. So that's
Right.
been really, really helpful for me.
To be like, that's my fault because of, but to look at more of the puzzle pieces, it was because I didn't get a good night's sleep and you didn't either. Or we didn't get to eat lunch because we were running over here. So it's looking at those things instead of immediately, I think as moms, you're right that we turn it love. What did I do? I didn't react well. It's my fault that they're reacting because I did this or that. So to take a deep breath, as you said, and take in that information of, okay, no, that wasn't the best way to go about talking or interacting in this thing. But I can see now as I step back how that built up or why that was the case. And then let's fix those things going forward.
Yeah. And then once you kind of have that, oh, I feel like this would be a better way to approach it, then if it makes sense to involve your spouse in the conversation, I felt like this didn't go really well today. I'm thinking that I might start packing a snack for Sean that's like protein, forward. And, what do you think about that? Do you think that would help? And he might say, yeah, I think that's great. And also, how about I, check with you on your way home and see what I can make Sean for lunch so that when he gets home, lunch is ready and then we make sure he doesn't get hangry. Depending on the situation, sometimes it's helpful to bring your spouse into the conversation, especially when it comes to routines and things that are affecting the whole family. And I feel like that also gives them kind of glimpse into, how do I put this, some of the mental load that we carry as moms. Like
Definitely.
the fact that I'm bringing a snack to and from church, and church is 20 minutes away. And to like, that is part of my mental load, and packing their Bibles and also packing their water bottles and these different things. It's sometimes not always on the radar of our spouses. And so being like, okay, well, I always pack a snack. And so then now they're aware, oh, wow, I didn't even know she packed a snack, for them to go to church. Or, oh, wow, I didn't even know Sean likes Welch's fruit snacks and Andrew likes Mott's and they don't like the other kind.
True.
This is the example I'm giving right now of like the mental load of motherhood, is that my two kids like two separate types of fruit snacks and they get irate if you give them the wrong kind. I'm like, what
Yep.
is this life? Like, what is
Yep.
this life?
Totally true. Yes, we have
Ah.
kids who like all different kinds of snacks and knowing which ones like which, or different fruits. Our kids like different fruits and won't eat the other fruits. And you're like, it's fruit. It's great. This is fine. But they are picky. One
Oh my
only
God.
green apples, one likes red apples.
So funny you say that, because Sean, I'm like, do you want apple slices as a snack, buddy? And he's like, oh, sure. And he goes, are they Honey Crisp? Yeah, yeah, they're Honey Crisp, but what if they weren't? And I just didn't tell you. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I think just kind of like, especially now that Pat has more capacity to be involved in some of the home stuff, I think that he's seeing more of the minutia of like what goes into like, oh, well, Sean has the Sonic the Hedgehog boxer briefs and Andrew has like the other, you know what I mean? Like it's the
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
all
like
the
all
things
the little
moms think
things,
about.
yeah, that we like keep in our brains, and just making that explicit, especially when things aren't working, to be like, can you help me think of a different way of doing this? Because I'm so in the weeds of the details. And sometimes it's helpful to get sort of that other opinion. Or if your kids are older, like in your case, you can even say, hey, I've noticed that when blah, 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 then this is the result. How do you think we could do this differently? Like, how do you think we could approach this differently? And at least let them be part of the conversation of how something could shift to maybe have a better outcome. I know sometimes teenagers, they might be like, I don't know. It's like if they might be more open, who knows, to be part
Somewhat.
of the,
They
yeah.
are boys. Boys
I
are
know.
so different than girls. My daughter will talk a bunch and tell me all kinds of information. The boys, as you said, are like, how was school? Fine. It was great. What are you looking forward to? It's the weekend. What are you not looking forward to? I have homework. How did your day go? Great. Like, who did you hang out with? My friends. Like, it's a one word answer that you're like pulling teeth to get more information. But my daughter will give a little bit more information. Sometimes she will then spark them to give more information, like, oh yeah, this was so funny. And then they'll say, oh, I had this other thing that happened, and they'll have more of a conversation. But yeah, it's just how they are, just that way. Yeah. It's all the things, as you said, that moms carry that we don't even think about. You don't even think about the fact that you're remembering which snack your kids like, or that they need a snack before you go to church. You just know, oh yeah, before we go to church, I pack a snack and put it in the car. I know before I go pick them up at 3 o'clock, they're going to need a snack and water. So there's always water in my car. And then I always take snacks. So the kids like me picking them up because dad doesn't think about these things. They're like, we don't get any snacks. We don't have any water. We sit in his car. It is just what it is.
And that's a good example of decide once for you, having water in the car, at all times, which actually is not a bad idea. I might steal that from you. But yeah, Sean has something after school today, so I'm picking him up rather than the bus. So I'm like, hey, buddy, I packed you an extra snack. You would think this kid, I think he probably, if he could, he would eat a snack every hour on the hour. But I'm like, I packed an extra snack so you can have that because you're going to be getting home an hour late. And again, it's the domino of like, if I don't do that, the kid that I'm going to pick up at 4:25 is going to be very different than the kid that, if he has a snack and whatever. Recognizing some of these fun nuances about the people that we live with and love is helpful, but also a lot of work.
So true. So true. It's good and it helps you think about things. But as you said, and you also know, I really like being around the kid that eats a snack. He's so much nicer when I go to pick him up at 4:30 than the kid who's hangry and everything's wrong and they're yelling because they're upset at one little thing that has made their day or their afternoon go wrong. So you do remember to bring a snack. Well, this has been fun. And I think that's so true. Just a small insight into all the things moms are thinking about and all the things we have for this new year. But we just want to encourage moms to take a deep breath and to step back from the situation, think through what other puzzle pieces kind of came in, and don't put a lot of pressure on yourself because oftentimes we as moms put way too much on us and we're doing a great job.
Yes, this is your reminder that you're all doing a wonderful job. Sometimes when I see a mom with like real littles that looks a little like frazzled and stuff, I'll just kind of go up and just very quietly. I'm like, I just want you to know you're doing a great job. And she's like, thanks. Because I kind of wish that someone had done that to me when my kids were little. A lot of times, like older women, well, not everyone, but sometimes older women were like, the days are long, but the years are short, or oh, you're going to miss this someday. And meanwhile, the kid's like screaming and like tugging on you and like someone's, spitting up and whatever. And you're like, really? Like, I'm really going to miss this? But
Yeah.
I'm usually just like the encouraging, like, you're doing great in case no one tells you today. And they're like, thank you. A good way to provide encouragement to our fellow moms.
Yeah. I've seen it like one person said, we need to have a sign for other moms, kind of like in the Hunger Games where she like gave like a sign like, I gotcha, kind of like to other moms in the parking lot who their kid are screaming and you're like, it's all good. All good. I gotcha. Good luck.
Solidarity. We're with you.
Yeah. So just know that we are with you, moms, and good luck in planning for this next year. We hope it is amazing. And we can't wait to see you next time on this episode. Thanks.